You guys see Joey Gallo's taking a lot of heat on Twitter, of course, because that's what Twitter does. But he did kind of chime in about the shift and putting ball in play, and he's like, he said something like, how am I supposed to hit the ball in play when there's 15 guys out there in center field or whatnot? And so he's getting bashed for it. What's your take on that, Bias?
I know, I'm curious to see, because Charlie thinks about this stuff a lot. But, like, to me, and I'm a baseball purist, but I don't think the shift should be outlawed. Like, to me, if you want to put every defensive player at third base, do it. You know, like, it's up to the hitter to figure it out.
Yeah.
But a lot of people think the shift has kind of ruined the sport. Where are you on the shift?
I think that baseball would be better without the shift. I just think it would be a more exciting product. I think it would increase offense. I know there was an article written recently that said as many hits that the shifts takes away, there's other hits that happen that wouldn't happen if defenders are in their typical spots. But especially for left-handed hitters, look, to me, baseball, you need to try to do things to make the game more interesting. And guess what? If you want to ban the shift, or what if you do something where you allow a couple shifts per game, right? You can keep the strategy, and it's almost like a challenge flag in football. Maybe you can shift twice a game. Whatever it is, baseball should try things. They should try things. And even if they don't work, guess what? A couple years later, get rid of the rule. But I do think if you created a rule where you had to have two defenders on each side of second base, so then you could have a guy that's right close to second base, right? It's still technically a shift. It's just not a ridiculously extreme shift. So if I'm a left-handed hitter, I agree. You want me to hit doubles and triples? You got 5 people over there to my pull side. And sure, it's very easy for folks, in my opinion, to say, hit the ball the other way. Do you think it's good for baseball? Do you want to take Joey Gallo, who looks like a gladiator? Do you want to take dudes that can hit 475-foot bombs? Is it better when they bunt down the third baseline? Is that better for the sport? Is it better when they slap a single to left?
No.
Or is it better when they try to hit a 450-foot bomb or a double in the gap? That's how I look at it.
I think baseball on its own overcomes things. Like, I think we have a generation of players who were taught about launch angle, and if the shift is such a problem offensively, I think baseball is going to go back to old school where players are taught to use the whole field. Now, players that can use the whole field and spray it around, that's exciting too. You're not going to see as many guys built just for the 2-run homer, right? But I do think baseball, with the way it trains its young players, can overcome the shift by going back to teaching them how to use the whole field. And I've talked about this before. David Freese, who was a guy who was brought up right center. That's where he went. That's his wheelhouse, right center. He would tell himself that. And he was like line drive up the middle. That's what he wanted. Then he said, when he was in Pittsburgh, he told me, I grounded into so many double plays because for me that was the wrong theory. You need to drive the ball with launch angles because the outfield is big and there are fewer defenders there, and that's where you want the ball. That plays into it also. But if you want to put wherever your defensive players are, I think you should align them the way you feel is best for that situation. And then it's up to baseball to teach hitters again how to use the whole field and get around that.
I think what's interesting to me is you have a lot of old school folks, and it's fine to have this opinion. I just disagree. There are people saying, oh, baseball, it's broken. Oh, you're trying to get rid of all the strategy and all the rules. And they like the old school game, which I get. If it was Bob Gibson throwing complete games, I understand that. But that's not what baseball is. Baseball is now a starting pitcher throwing 5 innings, maybe, and they're bringing in flamethrowers. I mean, your bullpen is stacked. The bullpen is more important than it's ever been. It's never been harder to get a hit in Major League Baseball. So all these things are changing. All these trends are going towards more relievers. Relievers are throwing more and more innings of a game across baseball. Starters are throwing fewer innings. They're going not as deep into ball games. You're making it so hard for hitters to hit. Well, don't you have to make a couple tweaks on the offensive side to try to change that? Because everything in baseball is going towards pitching. By the way, all the technology, if you ask folks who teach youth baseball, all of these facilities, the pitching technology is so far ahead of the hitting technology in terms of the guy throws a pitch, he looks at the iPad. It shows you your spin rate, your velocity, all of these different things immediately. I mean, the technology is also way ahead on the pitching side. Hitters have not caught up. Now, maybe they will, but I just think it's so hard to hit these days.
I understand what you're saying about the bullpen and people going 5. But the truth is, if your starting rotation is going 5 innings, you're going to destroy your bullpen, and it's not a rest. What you want, what every team's goal is with their starting rotation is you want at least 6. You want that quality start. That's why quality start is a stat that's thrown out there, because it means your guy got over the threshold and did 6. If you can get 6 innings out of your starters, and you do it consistently, you're probably a good team, right? I mean, so that's still the goal. Baseball hasn't changed that much, where that rotational thing where you have an opener, and that hasn't really taken hold as much as I think people thought that was the next wave. The goal for rotations now is still have a bunch of guys who can give you 6 innings and then turn it over to the bullpen. So some things are still kind of the same.
Well,
it's not like back
this.
in the day where your pitcher had to go 8 innings, or or even if it was a great pitcher, you're still going to put him out there from the 9th, even though his arm is going to get jacked up.
I just think when you have these big sweeping trends, go back to the year of the pitcher and all that. So what, 1968, the league-wide batting average was 237, right? You lower the mound. You try to make tweaks to make the game more interesting. Look, at 1996, now you are in the middle of the steroids era, but your league-wide batting average was 270. 270. Now that's influenced by steroids. Guess what it was last year? 244.
Not good. That's
244.
Not good.
And by the way, this is a downward trend basically from the steroids era to now. So we're talking about essentially 30 years. Now every once in a while, a year they'll kind of go up a little bit, but for 30 years, the batting average from the steroids era of about 267 to 270 has now trended down to 244. That's not interesting.
Well, get them back on the steroids.
That's what I said. Steroid league, damn it. They're supposed to be professional hitters. If you can't beat the shift, figure it out or go to the Saudi baseball league. Nate.
Ooh. Is that our Nate?
It sounds like our Nate, because he had another one down here, too. It's pretty funny. This just in. Phil Mickelson is meeting with several major league players as we speak. He's going to show them how to use threatening to go play in another baseball league so they can get way more money. Cool.
Well, they already have other leagues. It just no one wants to play in them. But for a major leaguer who might catch on with a major league team, a guy who has a resume maybe past his prime, you can go to the Korean League or the Japanese League and get a nice contract. Or if you're a young guy like Miles Michaelis did it and it worked out well for him, he went over there, built his resume, came back, got a nice contract.
I would just listen to these guys. Now, every once in a while, you're going to have a Freddie Freeman, right, where he's a great hitter, and it's not going to bother him as much. But time after time, whether it's Matt Carpenter, Joey Gallo, you'll laugh, but our guy Brian McCann, the shift destroyed that man too. And it's not all that. He also aged, but you have all these great power-hitting left-handed hitters.
Not a superstar.
Well, you can look at his numbers until he fell off, and he was. Silver Sluggers, big contract, all-star games.
Somebody just chimed in and goes, just tweak the baseball to go further.
So make it harder?
Like boost it?
Here's what I'd say. Like if I'm a hitting coach in Major League Baseball and a player comes up and says, hey, I'm having trouble with the shift, I give him a pat on the knee and say, be like Freddie Freeman. And that should solve
Freddie
it.
Freeman.
Right? That should solve it.
A Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
But my point is more
superstar, by the way, not McCann. Freeman.
Well,
superstar.
Freddie Freeman.
Yeah,
he'll be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I just look at it like this. Look at other sports that are gaining viewers. Look at other sports that are exciting. Now, if you want to be, it's not baseball, okay. Do you want your sport to no longer be one of the top 4? Do you want young people to not pay attention to your sport? Like it or not, you have to adjust to the times, right? Football does that. And I get it. Sometimes you watch a football game and you see a flag defensively, you're like, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. That was not roughing the passer. That never would have been called 10, 15 years ago. You see a beautiful hit across the middle, and it's such a good hit, they throw a flag just because the dude gets rocked so much, right? Yeah. It's not even to the head. And when I see that, I go, yeah, you know what? I don't love that. But guess what? Overall, them changing the rules to benefit offense, receivers, quarterbacks, it has made the NFL product unbelievable.
Yeah.
It has.
I think hockey's in a good spot right now, too, man. And it's so fast. You have so much skill going on. They're still absolutely murdering each other. There's still fights. There's still emotion. Like hockey's, I don't know where it's trending as far as if you want to break it all down compared to where baseball's at, compared to where the NBA's at. I don't know if it's trending in the right direction. I have to believe it is. I mean, a lot of young kids are playing hockey, but I like where it's at right now. I remember a couple years ago, people were complaining that wasn't physical enough, and now you're watching these games, and I'm telling you, they're just killing each other, and they're finding ways to do it without taking penalties, and again, the game's so damn fast. The MLB juices the baseballs as they please. But Brony.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair.
Do they?
Yeah. They've said before they have two different baseballs they use during a season, and there's been all kinds of reports about you bounce a baseball from back in the day versus a new one, and the newer one's much bouncier. They change it year to year.
And I know you love baseball. I do too. I just think pitching is fun too. Now, I understand if your cumulative batting average is 244, you got to look at it. Now, I understand. I think the discussion is warranted. But I think some of these pitchers are just fun to watch too, and I don't want every game to be 10-9. Like, I like a mix of it. So I guess it's like everything else, you're trying to find a balance, right?
But do you think the same way as the kid that's watching that you're trying to cater to, you know?
But I think if you're overzealous and trying to cater to that group, maybe it's not a good thing also. I do think there's things baseball can take from other sports, the way the NBA markets its superstars. You know, like young players, and baseball's trying to do it, but it's a player's game. Like, you have certain franchises, Cardinals are one of them, Yankees, where it almost doesn't matter who the players are. You're going to get great players there, and you're going to have a huge, fan base, and you're going to get good TV numbers. But overall, baseball needs to market its young stars better and put them out there like the NBA does. I think that could be part of the solution.
But what aren't they doing? Like, what would, when you ask Mike Trout to do things, like, he's probably like, I don't really want to be everywhere. I don't want to be on social media. I don't want this. How do you convince a guy like that to do more?
I think
stuff?
He would, to
really?
do national stuff. I don't know him personally, but I think it has to be the marketing approach of the league. And I think that they probably, and they're doing it now. My kid told me that MLB puts out like these TikTok videos now of the young players. Like, to me, that's sort of brand new, where other leagues have been doing that for a long, long time.
What about the minor league? The minor league team, they had new jerseys, and they had a guy with long hair come out. You see that little clip?
That was the Liberty University.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That was cool.
It was awesome.
They got more attention than some of the MLB guys.
Yeah. I mean, the way marketing is done now with social media is changed the whole entire game. And it's free. That's the other.
Exactly.
It's free.
Yeah. That's where. Exactly. So I do think, to me, football, NFL especially, is the one sport where I think a lot of people, they watch the whole game live because it's once a week. You only get 17 games or 13 games, whatever it is, for your college football team. Baseball being on every night for 3 hours, but you can have it on the backdrop as you do everything else around the house. I do think the marketing of baseball highlights on social media, and they are doing this with TikTok and all that, but that's where a kid might not want to watch the whole 3 hours. But if you throw him a 1.5-minute clip of diving catches and home runs and Shohei Ohtani and big-time strikeouts and dudes coming off the mound pumped up, like, people love that stuff. And it's not just sports, by the way. Look at the way that we watch late-night television. People used to watch late-night television live, right? I remember even when I was coming up, I would watch David Letterman and Conan O'Brien every night for a period there because they were so good. I loved watching it. Do folks really tune in and watch the show, or are they more so watching the clip that's posted the next morning? When you search Twitter, what's trending, and whatever it is, if it's a funny bit, if it's Jimmy Fallon doing a song with Jennifer Lopez. I feel like that's how people consume content now, more so.
I get you on that. Splashback chimes in and goes, "This should make they should make the baseball larger. Maybe throw it underhand. Keep some beers and cigs on the bench. Sounds like a great time." Yeah, I say they take steroids and get wasted the whole time. That'd be hilarious. Try 4 hours long, Charlie. Hockey is 3 hours.
Well, hockey's like a nice crisp 240.
Yeah, it's
that's
not 3
part
hours.
of it.
It's good. It's
NFL football is a nice 3 hours. NHL is a nice 240.
Yeah.
Maybe it's 250 if it goes into overtime.
Yep.
Baseball can be 4 hours.
Yeah, man.
Plus.
But I'll tell you this, we talked about this before. Watching football live, it's not my cup of tea. Watching it live is not my cup of tea. Watching it live on TV is absolutely the best thing in the world, watch football. But you go to maybe if you go to California and LA, that new stadium, like it's pretty cool. But football, I want to watch it on TV. Like watching it live just doesn't do anything for me.
What about baseball? You like going to a baseball
I'd rather
game?
go to a baseball game way more than watching it live. But baseball's great. You're cooking food. You got Wayno's doing his thing. You look the other way. All of a sudden, he pitches. It's relaxing. My mom and dad just going to sit in the back deck. Don't even watch the damn game. They just put on KMOX and let it go.
You know, I don't know what it is, but I did make a self-discovery the other day. Like, you record shows and stuff on, what do you call that, your DVR? Is that it's still the DVR? I find myself not even scrolling through the commercials. Like, it's almost like I am such an old that the built-in timeouts are good. Isn't that weird? And I think baseball, I was honestly thinking about this. Baseball kind of is like that. Maybe it's just for the olds, but you're watching the game, between innings, you can talk, go to the bathroom, whatever. Like, in a way, it paces it better, and there's something good about it. Nate's laughing. He thinks it's a ridiculous.
No. I have a similar issue. My dad in marketing a long time, so ad business, and they enjoy watching advertisements. And, if I'm home or whatever on a Sunday, I like the NFL Red Zone because it's commercial-free.
Damn right.
And there are no ads.
Yeah, dude.
But, I'll sit there and watch like a potato, for hours on hours. And, my dad will be like outside doing something in the yard. He just wants to focus on one game. And he can't stand the Red Zone. And so it's always a highly contested.
You don't like the Red Zone? Oh, that's the best
I love
thing
the Red Zone is the greatest invention in the world.
Maybe it's the olds.
It's the best
and I don't like
going.
I don't like watching the ads. I don't like watching the ads. It's almost like I need a little break. I'm not playing in the game. I'm not sweating.
But that's your.
Or I'm watching it's like Law and Order's on, and I'm too lazy to scroll through the commercials.
Here's another thing that baseball, and they're trying. They need to really embrace gambling because a huge part of the NFL. Everybody plays fantasy football. Everybody plays. Men, women, old, young. People don't even know the team sometimes, right? It's fun. It's fun to gamble on the NFL.
It's social in a way.
It's social.
Yep.
Football gambling is by far the most popular and the easiest to gamble. I would say fantasy baseball, I bet there's more fantasy baseball leagues, I'm just guessing, than other sports besides the NFL. Embrace fantasy sports. Embrace daily fantasy sports. And really embrace gambling. There's going to be a sports book at every stadium.
Yeah.
And that's just another piece of the puzzle because baseball is boring. That's why football, the gambling addicts, they're watching the game at the end that is a 21-point game because the garbage touchdown is going to swing the over-under and it's going to swing the line. And if you get baseball folks or gambling folks watching, I'm telling you, the boring game at the end,
it's meaningful now.
Every run is meaningful.
Yep.
Every run is meaningful to a gambler. I hate to say it, but I'm telling you, man, that's part of the business.
Well, I work for Bally Sports Midwest. I think we understand that, especially as subscriber fees, and that is going to be reworked, and eventually a lot of that's going to go in a totally different direction. You need other revenue streams, and for every major league, they're going to have to embrace it. I agree with it. But I will say, and maybe it's because I'm but I do think part of it is, like, I get it, and I'm fully on board with it. But isn't part of it sad, in a way, when you think about it? It's like the sport is okay and popular, but really the gambling is what makes it. In a way, that's kind of sad, isn't it?
Except for, I look at this as the regular season. I've always said this about baseball. Baseball's problem is not really the playoffs. Playoffs is super exciting. Yeah. I don't see a lot of people complaining about 4-hour intense playoff game.
Pitching duels, yeah.
Look at the Cardinals-Dodgers game. What was it? Was it 2-1? What was the final score? 1-0? I can't even remember.
Yes, there was a final score.
Whatever the score was, I feel like that game took about 4 hours, but nobody complained.
No.
It was edge of your seat. Every inning of that game, any mistake could have swung who won that game.
Yeah.
And now, in the playoffs, I think for 1 month, that's really exciting. I don't think that's as exciting every night for 6 months straight.
No, I agree with that, buddy. 855-282-8255. We're going to go to a break here soon, but through and forward show, Teddy Sandwiches chimes back. And if you ever need marketing advice, let me know. I literally turned eating sandwiches into my full-time job. Now, he is a real person, and I think I was supposed to do like a video with him the other day about sandwiches, and I think that he does go around and taste sandwiches in the city. He's been to all these different places, and he does like a little video for him. So it was snowing the other day. That's why I didn't go with you. Cam, could you watch a baseball game without a beer? Hell no. Baseball is especially relaxing when there's no netting along the foul territory, and Mom had to protect little Joey from screaming line drives. Ooh. Morning, fellas. I'll stop by and bring everyone Goya's. Is that what he's spelled? Goya's? Joya's Deli sometime soon. Cloyd. God, that name sucks.
Good
but
old Cloyd.
Damn, dude, bring that over.
I call him Clump.
Holy macaroni. Let me tell you something.